Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here and welcome to this week's episode of The Knife Guy. If you're new to my channel or you just came out of some weird corner of the internet and you have no idea where you are or who I am a knife guy, knife user, knife collector, knife enjoyer of many sorts. We are all assuming, if you're watching this video, knife guys and gals in this super weird, crazy EDC and knife related world. And we all go down our own unique paths, but oftentimes those paths intersect and we experience a lot of the same stuff. What I like to do on this series is pick up knives that are usually mine. Sometimes the people who lend me knives, I'll lay their knives out here. I like to just flip them, just sort of fidget with them, mess around. Talk about a lot of these shared experiences, give you guys something to sit back and watch or listen to on this hopefully beautiful Sunday morning, afternoon, or evening. Every single knife, this whole weekend has been about modification and customization. I'll tell you what, the reason I'm focusing on it is because I don't know if you guys have noticed, I'm not going to say that there are not things out there to buy, but everybody, and then like different retailers are getting different drops, and I think it's starting to kick back up. But these last 3 weeks or so, man, everybody is sold out of everything. Everything is gone. I'm not just talking about like Hinders and Demkos and stuff, but like stuff that's normally there is just gone. Oh boy. Crazy to see, not everywhere, but like, let me give you an example. A knife that I brought this up, I said it. I said that 0562 tie. You know, there's going to come a day when those are gone. Now, I don't think that they're gone permanently, and they are definitely still available at various retailers. But there are a lot of major retailers. I went around to check just to see. There are a lot of retailers that don't have the ZT 0562 tie in stock. Man, that's wild. PM2's, pair of threes is still around. Obviously, Shaman's always gone. Smock's kind of same. There's a few floating around. So there's just funny things that are always like every retailer has like 1,000 of them, and there's so many sold out. So I got my I bought a titanium scale for my Eclipse, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty happy about that. I had and you guys are, well, you're seeing this preemptively. Truthfully, you won't see that video until next week. But I've been kind of focusing on that because there's not anything that, I mean, like, there's stuff out there that I'm interested in, for sure. But also, it's like, well, it's like, I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm buying something just to buy something. So sometimes I find good opportunities in this whole knife thing to, take a step back and customize some stuff that I've already got. Stuff that's just sitting there and be fun to just kind of spice it up, right? During the disassembly of one of these knives, I thought, man, I remember the first time that I did this and how frustrating it was. So many of you watching right now, remember the first time you took apart a Benchmade? Not even necessarily a Benchmade. You remember the first time you took apart anything? It probably worked out okay, but I guarantee you hit some roadblocks. It's the same thing that you go through when you take apart literally anything for the first time. I remember, I told this story a long time ago. I remember my stupid washing machine. It just was like, it just threw me a code like door lock failure. And, that's frustrating because the thing is basically just going, I don't know, I'm a washing machine. There's something, I mean, I know the door closes, but I don't know. Something inside is like, it's wrong. So sorry, you can't wash your clothes. Call the guy. That'll be $400. And I was like, no, just work, stupid thing. Like, I'm pushing the button. The door's closed. Do my laundry, So I was frustrated, and so we live in a world now where we have the convenience of YouTube and various other sites that will give you a step-by-step walkthrough of how the internals for some of these things work. So while they definitely are more complicated now than they were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, we also have a more guided, we have resources where we can come and watch and see somebody else do it. And it gives us the confidence to try. So I ended up taking the door latch assembly apart on my washing machine, messed up the spring on the button at the same time there was a little detent like wire thing that had slid off its track, and so I put that back on, but it kept slipping off the track because I had installed it and taken it back out multiple times. I finally figured out that the thing needed to be bent more forward so that this hook of this detent bar was staying in the track. And on top of that, I screwed up the door spring that was responsible for that little button that comes out where you shut the door and it hits the button and the spring lets the internal system know, like, hey, the door's shut. I messed that up. So I had to change the spring. I had to find a spring that was exact. It was a mess, but I did it. I probably invested 5 hours in that stupid door latch assembly. But it works now, and it's been working for months. Periodically, I'll shut the door, and the little sensor will be like, no, it's not. And I've found that I can push that button in and slide my finger off it and release it, and it kicks the button back out and resets the sensor and shut it. It's just like, Fawn's like getting the jukebox with his elbow. My washing machine has a thing now. I'm like, I know what's wrong with it, and I go, but man, the satisfaction of doing that myself. I'm not going to say that I'm the type of person that can do everything like that. A lot of times there are just things that go wrong, and I'll have to go. My dad owns a construction company, and some things will go wrong, and I'll be like, how do I fix this? But what I'm saying is that even if you can pay for something to be fixed, which I'm not, there are certain things that are above my, I'm not good at certain things. Let's see here. What's a good example of something that I had to, certain elements of yard service, that's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I might need a little bit of help with this until I can understand it better, right? But there are other things that I absolutely will invest my time in learning how they work so that I can fix it, not just to save money, but just for that. For those of you who have fixed something, anything, we all do this. We personify the thing. The thing doesn't want to work, and it's mocking you, right? My washing machine was sitting there going, I'm not doing your laundry, idiot, stupid guy. I'm not going to do this, right? And I was like, yes, you are. And that's the battle that's going on in my head. So when I finally made it work, the satisfaction, this is dumb. This is me being a stupid human being. Stepping back and sneering at that washing machine and be like, that's right. Huh? You do your job. You didn't think I could do it, but I did it. Right? It's just me alone in my house, like talking down to my washing machine, standing over it in victory. Right? You got to do it now. Knowing full well the thing can't think, talk, feel anything. It's just a machine, right? But I'm going to live out that fantasy because I fixed it. Nobody's taking that away from me. Every time I walk by my washing machine now, I kind of sideways, I'm like, what's up? Huh? How's that laundry coming? Yeah. It's so dumb. Like, not really. I'm obviously like hamming this up to make you guys laugh. There's plenty of people not laughing. I'm sure there's plenty of people going, this guy's an idiot. But that satisfaction was there because the memory of conquering that thing and making it do what it was supposed to do felt really good. Now, how am I relating this to knives? Every single one of these knives that's laying out here is a knife that I have taken apart either to modify or to alter something or just to learn. The learning experience with this guy, when you take the scale off, there's a sort of, like a miniature spring cannon in here. And as soon as you take the spring off, it will fire the spring into the ether, into the vista of reality. I spent hours, not hours. I spent an hour and a half looking for that spring. I found it it actually hit the ceiling stuff and came back. I was looking way over in the corner of this dungeon, and it had actually ricocheted off of the rafters and had landed back on top of my an impossible landing area. Had landed back on top of my knife case over here. But I learned something. When you disassemble this knife, the 80-20.5 or any 80-20s, for the love of God, do it underneath something, even like a big Tupperware dish, because that spring's coming out, right? Or just be aware of it, right? Because if you don't have that spring, the whole knife doesn't work. But yeah, I wanted to take that apart to take a look at it. This guy, the Rockstead, this is a really expensive knife, and it has turned into a user that I remember what it cost, but I don't feel the sting of that anymore. It's just a user, and it's a great knife. I wanted to take this apart to find out, basically just for myself, like how easy it looks really easy to take apart. It looks like it's about as simple as a Sebenza. Is it going to be easy to take apart and put back together? And are the tolerances good enough to keep everything completely locked up and perfect? And the answer is yeah. The Rockstead is really easy to take apart. Hinders, I've taken apart tons of them. I love modifying these because they always go back together exactly the way that they're supposed to. Taking apart the Spydercos, dealing with that lanyard hole, that sucked. The first time I did it, that sucked. In fact, I did ruin a Mannix a long time ago. Before I had the channel, I ruined it. And I was so bent out of shape because it was the cost of the knife, $120, plus the custom scales. The lanyard barrel was the part that got ruined. I ruined the original scales. I absolutely screwed up the lanyard barrel. And I ruined the new scales. Not to the point where the knife wasn't functional. It just had big ugly marks on it that bothered me, right? So that was an expensive lesson. Next time I went at it, it was a little bit better, and then a little bit better, right? Really glad. Benchmade knives, oh my gosh, the first time I tried to... Taking these apart, the first time, you got to put them back together, and there's a lot of screws, and then you got to hold the thing down, and you got to turn it this way, and you got to push the pivot up through the thing, and it's D-shaped, and it's got to go through the washer, and through the blade, and through the other washer, and then through the handles. You got to hold it all together at the same time, and you let one thing go, and it goes blap, and like everything comes out of place. And I know those of you who have taken apart Benchmade knives, you know what I'm talking about. You get sweaty and you're breathing hard because it's so close. That pivot barrel is so close to going through, and then you can feel the sweat on your thumb slipping off of the axis, and you're like, no, and it slips, and the whole knife goes clink, and everything, a washer falls out, and it just makes you want to yeet that thing into the mesosphere. It makes you want to just, I wish I had a volcano handy for every time something like that happens so that I could simply discard of the object with maximum force into the depths of said volcano. Oh, but I'm glad that I just kept messing with it. Now, admittedly though, these were expensive learning processes. But the satisfaction now with certain knives, I'm not saying that, that I have learned everything that there is to learn. But when you take apart a lot of stuff and put stuff back together, I mean, I'm not telling anybody who's like an engine mechanic is going, yeah, when you take a lot of stuff apart and put it back together all the time, you learn things. Wow, great episode, Metal Complex, you freaking idiot. Yeah, I get that. But I'm saying, for those of you who have not experienced this yet, relating it to knives, right? Specifically with knives. Maybe you are an engine mechanic, but you, for whatever reason, are more intimidated. That's probably not a common person. If you're a mechanic, you probably have no issue taking apart knives. Maybe you do. If you do, right? The same thing applies. Taking apart a knife and putting it back together, even if it's a different type of knife, right? There's a lot of rules with folding knives that kind of universally apply. There's a lot of stuff that absolutely, like there's a lot. Have you ever seen like the knives from Winter Blade Co? I think that there are some very basic rules that might apply to some of his designs, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff that's like, I don't even understand how that operates, right? And obviously OTFs are a different thing, but I took apart my Scarab, and it turns out that there was actually an element in there that needed some additional internal lubrication to get that thing to fire as hard as I wanted it to. And I fixed it. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I messed with those internals. You get an idea for how things are supposed to move and run together, and what surfaces need to be cleaned, and what surfaces need to be, you know, tighter, or what screws need to be tighter than other screws, so that you can get the blade to center up and lock up correctly. Tons of knives have arrived here, whether they are from other people or knives that I have purchased, or knives that have been given to me by whoever, in less than optimal, you know, working condition. And the reason is because most of the things that I handle are made by machine. So while most of them are made really well, especially when you get up into like over $100, most of them come out great. But when there is an issue, right? The old me, a long time ago when I first got into this, I was too nervous about having spent so much money for the thing to be any less than perfect. So my instinct was, no, send it back. I want a perfect one. Now, not so much. It takes a much larger issue for me to want to send. In fact, I can't remember the last time I sent a knife back. If something is a little bit off, and I'm not talking about like, oh, the action is like 99.9%, so I need to get them the... I have another video that directly contradicts what I'm saying here, and I'm sure you guys will point it out, where I say, you know, just leave it alone. The darn thing will break in. And what I'm saying there is, when everything else is perfect, and that part of you that's a little too nitpicky, you get a little too, you know, ear to the ground with the action and tolerances, and so you're convinced there's some teeny tiny little thing that needs to be worked out, and then taking it apart, you're just putting yourself in a position where there's a greater risk of messing up something else that will then, you know, create more of an issue, right? There are certain things that I've just learned, like, that'll work. Like lock stick. I don't mess with lock stick anymore. Like, it'll work itself out. It always does. Little things like that. But I'm really glad that I have taken apart so many knives, so that when there is an issue like centering, or there's an issue with the, you know, maybe the action really is grindy in some area, or maybe the knife seems to be locking up way too late or way too early. There are little things, depending on what the knife is, what type of block it is, what type of... There's little things where you can absolutely fix or improve those things. But also, not just taking things apart for... The idea here is not just like, I'm glad I take a lot of things apart so that I can fix... No, I'm glad that I do it so that when I want to modify something, when I want to customize one of my knives, I don't flinch at it at all anymore. Because I'm like, yeah, I've done that before. That's, you know, now it's just fun. And... you know, the parts that are going to be difficult, like the axis lock or the freaking lanyard barrel on the Spider Coast, I have things that I use for that stuff now. Things that I found to be more efficient. And eventually I'll discover an even more efficient way of doing it. But the satisfaction of something coming together so perfectly, right? It's worth it. It's worth it. I'm not saying the knives are sitting here like, we don't want to be customized. And I'm like, yes, you will, you know? Like, kind of, but that satisfaction is there, and you can apply it to anything. Anything. As I've gotten older, like I said, there are still absolutely things that I need help with, that I don't have enough experience with. But you should... Okay, so for example, we're having something created for us. And I have and I'm talking about like in my personal life, me and my wife, we're having somebody build something for us that I have never tried to build before. And so, but I'm going to be involved with it. I'm not going to sit there on the patio, you know, with a beverage and just watch them do it. No, I want to be involved with it, because maybe I won't ever build this exact same type of thing again in my life, but there's bound to be elements of it that are applicable to other things. So if you do it, and not just stand there and look and take notes and take a video, no, if you hands on, right? You get your hands in there and you do it, you get that foundation, that better understanding for why and how, right? Lining things up and making sure that it's exact, that type of thing. those little teeny tiny minute details when you do them with your own hands, your system, it creates not just muscle memory, but a very specific memory associated with that process. And that process can be applied so many times. It really does have an exponential effect, not in just your ability to do that, but also the joy of the satisfaction of, I did that this time, right? So yeah, customize your knives. You might screw it up the first time, and it'll be an expensive mistake, and it'll bother you. But the next time you do it, and hopefully there is a next time, get back on the horse. The next time you do it, you'll know, and it'll be worth it. I have messed up more than one knife in the past customizing it. But I can tell you, learning how to do it correctly and getting to this point was absolutely, in my case, from my perspective, worth the money it costs, or the damage to all of the knives are fine. None of them are inoperable, or they were. I think all of them are gone now. But it was worth the money that I spent. It was worth putting the scratches and the dings and the blemishes and messing up the tolerances right in a few cases. It was worth that to get to the point where I'm confident, or more confident with a lot of stuff. And you know what? I will definitely, in the future, mess up another knife. And it'll probably be a lot more expensive. And it's going to hurt. You know, it's gonna. But that's how you learn. We don't stop learning when we become adults, right? We focus on teaching, you know, if you have kids, you know, or somebody younger in your life, you focus on teaching them what you do know, right? But then in our personal lives, we continue to go through life going, there's other stuff that I didn't know, and I'm still trying to figure this out, right? I mean, that's everything. So I'm glad I'm where I'm at. Want to keep doing this, want to keep learning. I'm going to try to be brave enough to take apart more and more and more complicated things. Even though disassembly isn't necessarily a huge part of this channel, it is something that I like. Customization is fun. It's something that I'm interested in, which is why I do so many simple modification videos. But I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm hoping that it'll blossom into something more interesting, more detailed, right? I've never used a Dremel on a knife. Never tried to do my own anodizing. I've never tried to do anything like that. I've never tried to make my own scales, right? There's plenty of people watching right now who have done stuff like that and will probably tell you the same thing. Yeah, the first time I did it, jacked everything up. I set my shed on fire. No, I mean, maybe, I don't know. But, you know, that's how you learn. A lot of times it's just really expensive mistakes until it gets, you know, until you do it right. Anyways, I think you guys get the idea. Did I tell you guys to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex? All right, well, for the 8 people who are left here watching now at the end, please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.